Captain Marcus Chen stared at the holographic display floating above the conference table aboard the UES Horizon, humanity's first deep space diplomatic vessel. The blue-skinned alien princess before him stood nearly 8 feet tall, her forearms crossed in what he hoped was a gesture of patience rather than irritation. Her crystalline crown caught the artificial light, sending rainbow fragments dancing across the sterile walls of the meeting chamber. "I'm sorry, Your Highness, could you repeat that?" Marcus asked, his translator earpiece crackling with static. Princess Zarathis of the Velkarun Empire tilted her elongated head, her large violet eyes studying him with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "I said, Captain Chen, that our clans have selected us to marry. This union will seal the alliance between your species and mine." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat thundering in his ears. Behind him, his diplomatic team shifted nervously. Dr. Sarah Kumar, his chief xenobiologist, made a strangled sound that might have been a cough or suppressed laughter. "With all due respect, Princess," Marcus began carefully, "I think there may have been some miscommunication. Humans don't typically arrange marriages for diplomatic purposes anymore. We abolished that practice centuries ago." The princess's secondary arms gestured dismissively, while her primary hands remained folded. "Your primitive understanding of interstellar politics is charming, but irrelevant. The sacred algorithms of the Velkarun have calculated our genetic and psychological compatibility. We are a 97% match." "Sacred algorithms?" Dr. Kumar whispered behind him. Marcus raised a hand to quiet his team. "Princess Zarathis, I'm honored by this proposal, truly, but I need to understand something. When did our respective governments agree to this arrangement?" The princess's skin shifted from deep blue to a lighter azure. What Marcus had learned indicated confusion or surprise in Velkarun physiology. "Your Admiral Harrison signed the preliminary accords 3 rotations ago. Did he not inform you of your selection?" The pieces began clicking into place in Marcus's mind with horrible clarity. 3 weeks ago, Admiral Harrison had personally assigned him to this mission, insisting that his unique qualifications made him indispensable for first contact protocols. The old bastard had been unusually evasive about the specific nature of the diplomatic talks. "I need to contact my superiors," Marcus said slowly. "There is no need," the princess replied, her skin returning to its deeper blue shade. "The contracts have been signed. The ceremony is scheduled for tomorrow at the zenith of Karun Prime's third sun." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. Tomorrow. Velkarun unions must be consummated quickly to ensure the proper alignment of stellar energies, she explained matter-of-factly. Delays could result in unfavorable offspring or, worse, diplomatic catastrophe. Dr. Kumar stepped forward. "Captain, perhaps we should discuss this privately with the team." Princess Zarathis's head turned toward the xenobiologist with predatory grace. "Dr. Kumar, is it not? The human female scientist. Your presence here is also fortuitous." "How so?" Kumar asked warily. "Velkarun marriages require a witness from each clan who can verify the genetic viability of the union. You will serve as Marcus's clan sister in the ceremony." Kumar's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Marcus stood abruptly. "Princess, I appreciate the honor, but I need time to process this. Surely you can understand that this is unexpected." The princess's violet eyes narrowed. "Captain Chen, are you refusing the marriage?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Marcus became acutely aware of the Velkarun honor guards stationed outside the chamber, each one carrying weapons that could probably vaporize him without leaving a trace. "I'm not refusing," he said carefully. "I'm asking for clarification of terms." This seemed to satisfy her. The princess's posture relaxed slightly. "Very well. The marriage contract stipulates that you will become prince consort of the Velkarun Empire with dominion over the Outer Rim territories. In exchange, humanity will be granted protected status within our sphere of influence and access to our hyperspace trade routes." Marcus's mind raced. The trade route access alone would revolutionize human civilization. Faster-than-light travel, exotic materials, technologies beyond their current understanding. It was everything humanity had hoped for when they first detected Velkarun transmissions 5 years ago. "And if I were to refuse?" he asked quietly. The princess's skin shifted to a deep purple, and her four arms spread wide in what Marcus recognized as a threat display. Refusal would be interpreted as an insult to the Empire. The Velkarun do not forgive insults. Commander Tors, Marcus's tactical officer, stepped forward. "Princess, surely there are other ways to formalize an alliance." "Negative," she replied, her skin still that ominous purple. "The sacred algorithms have spoken. Captain Chen possesses the precise combination of leadership ability, genetic diversity, and psychological resilience required for optimal offspring. No other human meets these criteria." "Optimal offspring," Marcus repeated weakly. "Naturally. The purpose of this union is to create hybrid progeny who will serve as ambassadors between our species. The calculations indicate our children will possess enhanced cognitive abilities, extended lifespans, and natural diplomatic instincts." Dr. Kumar made another strangled sound. The princess continued, seemingly oblivious to the human's distress. "The first clutch should be produced within 2 standard cycles. The sacred algorithms recommend a minimum of 4 offspring to ensure genetic diversity." "Clutch," Marcus's voice cracked. "Velkarun typically birth between 3 and 6 young simultaneously," the princess explained helpfully. "Though with hybrid genetics, the numbers may vary." Marcus sat down heavily, his legs suddenly unable to support him. This was not how he had imagined first contact proceeding. He had envisioned careful negotiations, cultural exchanges, maybe a few trade agreements. He had not anticipated becoming an alien prince and father to a hybrid clutch. "Princess," he said finally, "I need to speak with my team privately. Surely the sacred algorithms can accommodate a brief consultation period." The princess considered this, her skin cycling through several color changes. "1 standard hour," she declared. "The marriage preparations cannot be delayed further without disrupting the stellar alignment." She turned and strode from the chamber, her honor guard falling in behind her. As soon as the door sealed, the conference room erupted in chaos. "Sir, this is insane," Commander Tors said. "They can't just conscript you into marriage." "Technically, they can," Dr. Kumar interjected, pulling up data on her tablet. "I've been analyzing their cultural database. Marriage alliances are fundamental to Velkarun society. Refusing would be equivalent to declaring war." "So we're supposed to just hand over our captain like some medieval bride?" Tors demanded. "The alternative might be the complete destruction of human civilization," Kumar replied grimly. "The Velkarun Empire spans 3 galaxy arms. Their military capability is orders of magnitude beyond ours." Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. "What about the legal implications? Can Admiral Harrison actually commit me to marriage without my consent?" "That's murky territory," admitted Lieutenant Chen, the team's legal advisor. "The Emergency Colonial Powers Act might give him authority in extreme diplomatic situations." "This is definitely extreme," Marcus muttered. Dr. Kumar continued scrolling through her data. "Captain, there might be a silver lining here. If we can make this work, humanity gains access to technology that could advance our civilization by centuries. Medical knowledge, energy systems, transportation. At the cost of my personal autonomy," Marcus pointed out. "For the greater good of the species," Kumar countered. Marcus looked around at his team, seeing a mixture of sympathy and expectation in their faces. They all understood the implications. This wasn't just about him anymore. The future of humanity might depend on his decision. "Sir," Tors said quietly, "whatever you decide will support you." Marcus appreciated the sentiment, even if his options were limited. Refuse and potentially doom humanity to isolation or worse. Accept and sacrifice his own life plans for the possibility of a brighter future for his species. "What do we know about Velkarun marriage customs?" he asked Kumar. "Still researching, but it appears to be a lifetime commitment. Divorce is unknown in their culture. However, the role of prince consort comes with significant political power and autonomy." "And the princess herself, what's her story?" Kumar's expression grew thoughtful. "Princess Zarathis is reportedly one of the most brilliant strategic minds in the Empire. She's been advocating for peaceful expansion rather than conquest. This marriage proposal might be her way of securing humanity's future while advancing her own political agenda." Marcus considered this. Perhaps the princess wasn't just following algorithmic orders. Maybe she saw something in this arrangement that went beyond mere diplomatic convenience. A soft chime indicated that 30 minutes had passed. Marcus stood and straightened his uniform. "All right, team, let's go make history." As they prepared to return to the conference chamber, Dr. Kumar caught his arm. "Marcus, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing." "Ask me again in a few years," he replied with a weak smile. The chamber doors opened, and Princess Zarathis entered with her retinue. Her skin had returned to its normal blue hue, and her posture seemed less rigid than before. "Captain Chen," she said formally, "have you reached a decision?" Marcus took a deep breath, thinking of Earth, of humanity's future among the stars, of the impossible choice that had been thrust upon him. "Princess Zarathis of the Velkarun Empire, I accept your proposal of marriage." For the first time since they had met, the princess smiled, revealing rows of pearlescent teeth. "Excellent. The preparations will begin immediately. You will find, Captain, that Velkarun unions are quite different from your human customs." As the princess began outlining the ceremony details, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped off a cliff into an unknown abyss. But perhaps, just perhaps, he would learn to fly on the way down. The wedding ceremony took place in the Great Temple of Stellar Convergence, a crystalline structure that seemed to defy physics by floating unsupported in Charon Prime's upper atmosphere. Marcus stood in what he hoped was the correct ceremonial position, wearing robes that felt like liquid starlight and weighed approximately nothing. The garments had been provided by the princess's servants, who had assured him through translation software that he looked acceptably dignified for a primitive male. The temple itself was breathtaking. Walls of living crystal shifted through impossible colors, while the ceiling displayed a real-time view of the three suns reaching their perfect alignment. Hundreds of Velkarun nobles filled the floating gallery seats, their skin colors cycling through what Dr. Kumar had identified as expressions of curiosity, approval, and in some cases, barely concealed disdain. Princess Zarathis stood across from him at the altar, now wearing traditional marriage robes that seemed to be woven from captured auroras. Her forearms moved in complex ritual gestures while she recited vows in ancient Velkarun. Marcus had been provided a translation, but the ceremony was moving too quickly for him to follow completely. The high priestess of the sacred algorithms, an elderly Velkarun with skin that had faded to pale silver, raised her ceremonial staff. The crystal at its tip began to glow with increasing intensity as the three suns reached perfect alignment overhead. "By the power of the sacred algorithms," the priestess intoned, her words echoing through the temple with unnatural resonance, "we bind these two souls across the void of species. Let their union bring prosperity to both peoples and strength to the empire." Marcus felt something strange happening to his body. The ceremonial robes began to emit a soft golden light that seemed to sync with the princess's aurora-colored garments. Where their lights touched, new colors emerged that had no names in any human language. "Captain Chen," the priestess addressed him directly, "do you accept the sacred bonds of marriage, the responsibility of empire, and the duty to produce worthy offspring for the glory of the Velkarun?" "I do," Marcus replied, his voice steadier than he had expected. "Princess Zarathis," the priestess continued, "do you accept this alien male as your bonded partner, your strategic advisor, and co-parent to your future clutch?" "I accept," the princess replied, her violet eyes never leaving Marcus's face. The priestess struck the temple floor with her staff, and the entire structure rang like a massive bell. The assembled nobles began a harmonic chanting that made Marcus's bones vibrate. As the sound reached its crescendo, he felt a sudden connection form in his mind, not telepathy exactly, but an awareness of the princess's emotional state that hadn't been there before. She was nervous. The realization struck him as profoundly humanizing. Despite her imposing stature and regal bearing, Princess Zarathis was just as uncertain about this arrangement as he was. The knowledge made him feel slightly less alone in this alien ceremony. The bonding ritual concluded with an exchange of genetic samples, a far less romantic process than human traditions, involving small crystalline devices that extracted and analyzed DNA in real time. The results were projected into the air above the altar, displaying compatibility charts that the assembled nobles studied with intense interest. 98.7% compatibility, the high priestess announced with satisfaction. The sacred algorithms have chosen well. As the ceremony concluded, Marcus found himself officially prince consort of the Velkarun Empire, with all the rights, responsibilities, and bewildering complexity that the title entailed. The reception that followed was a blur of alien dignitaries offering congratulations, gifts that defied description, and food that challenged every assumption he had about nutrition. Late that evening, Marcus found himself alone with his new wife on the observation deck of the Imperial Palace. The three suns had set, leaving Karun Prime's sky filled with unfamiliar constellations and the ghostly light of 6 moons. "You're wondering what happens next," the princess said without preamble. Her voice carried the same formal tone she had maintained throughout their acquaintance. "The thought had crossed my mind," Marcus admitted. "Velkarun marriages follow a probationary period," she explained. "We have one full cycle, approximately 6 of your Earth months, to determine if our union is viable. During this time, we will work together to establish our household, learn each other's customs, and prepare for potential offspring." Marcus leaned against the observation deck's railing, studying the alien skyline below. "And if we determine the marriage isn't viable? Then it will be dissolved, and you will be free to return to your people. However," she paused, her skin shifting to a deeper blue, "such a failure would be interpreted as evidence that humans are unsuitable for alliance. The Empire would likely classify your species as a minor civilization, unworthy of protection or trade privileges." "No pressure there," Marcus muttered. For the first time since he had met her, the princess laughed. The sound was musical, like wind chimes made of crystal. "I appreciate your human tendency towards sarcasm. It will serve you well in the imperial court. Speaking of which, what exactly are my duties as prince consort?" The princess turned to face him, her 4 arms gesturing as she spoke. "You will serve as my advisor on matters relating to primitive species integration. The Empire is expanding rapidly, and we encounter new civilizations regularly. Most are simply conquered or ignored. Your perspective might help us identify others worthy of alliance rather than subjugation." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the alien evening air. "How many species has the Empire conquered?" "Approximately 4,732, she replied matter-of-factly. "Most offered little resistance." The number hit him like a physical blow. Thousands of civilizations, potentially billions of sentient beings, reduced to subjects of the Velkarun Empire. The weight of humanity's precarious situation settled on his shoulders like lead. "You're thinking that your species barely avoided that fate," the princess observed. "You're correct." "What made the difference?" Marcus asked quietly. "Your space exploration patterns. Most primitive species expand outward randomly, claiming territory without purpose. Humans show strategic thinking, establishing supply lines and defensive positions. The sacred algorithms identified this as indicative of potential military competence. So we impressed you with our paranoia." "Your prudence," she corrected. "The Empire values strategic thinking above all else. Physical strength and technological advancement can be acquired, but tactical intelligence is rare among younger species." Marcus absorbed this information, filing it away for future consideration. "What about you personally? Did you have any say in this arrangement, or are you just following algorithmic orders?" The princess's skin shifted through several color changes before settling on a darker shade he hadn't seen before. "The sacred algorithms identified you as an optimal match, but the decision to pursue this alliance was mine. I could have chosen conquest instead." "Why didn't you?" She was quiet for a long moment, her violet eyes studying the alien constellations. "The Empire has grown vast, but it has also grown stagnant. We conquer, we expand, but we do not truly evolve. Your species shows innovation, adaptability. Perhaps union rather than domination will provide the catalyst for growth that the Empire needs." Marcus sensed there was more to her answer, but decided not to push. They had months to understand each other's motivations. "What about the offspring situation?" he asked instead. "The sacred algorithms seem pretty insistent about hybrid children." "Velkarun reproduction is more clinical than your human process," she explained. "Genetic material is combined in controlled laboratory conditions to ensure optimal development. The resulting clutch is incubated for approximately 4 months before emergence." "That's reassuring, I suppose," Marcus said, though he wasn't entirely sure it was. The hybrids will be something entirely new, the princess continued. Neither fully human nor Velkaran, but possessing the strengths of both species, they will serve as bridges between our peoples. Assuming we successfully navigate this probationary period. Indeed, she turned to face him fully. Marcus, may I speak plainly? The use of his first name surprised him. Please do. This arrangement benefits both of us politically, but it will only succeed if we can develop genuine cooperation. I do not expect love. That is a human concept that does not translate well to Velkaran psychology, but I do require trust and mutual respect. Marcus studied her alien features, looking for something recognizable in her expression. What does trust look like between our species? Honesty about our respective goals and limitations. I will not pretend to understand human emotional needs, but I will not deliberately exploit them either. In return, I ask that you attempt to understand Velkaran logic and strategic thinking. That seems reasonable, Marcus agreed. Good, tomorrow your real education begins. You will need to understand imperial politics, military strategy, and diplomatic protocol. The court will test you constantly, looking for weaknesses they can exploit. Lovely. You will also need to learn to use the genetic modification treatments that will allow you to survive in various alien environments. As Prince Consort, you will be expected to accompany me on diplomatic missions throughout the Empire. Marcus's head was beginning to spin with the complexity of his new role. Anything else I should know? Yes, the princess said, her skin shifting to what he was learning indicated amusement. Your Dr. Kumar has requested permission to establish a human research facility here on Karan Prime. I have granted her request. She will serve as your cultural liaison and advisor. Relief flooded through Marcus. Having Kumar nearby would make this transition infinitely more bearable. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Her research will involve extensive study of Velkaran reproduction, imperial history, and military technology. The information she gathers will be shared with your Earth governments. Marcus realized what she was telling him. You're giving humanity access to your technology. Selected technologies, she corrected. Those that will help your species develop without becoming a threat to imperial security. Consider it a wedding gift. As they stood together on the observation deck, watching the alien moons trace their paths across the sky, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling around him like a mantle. He was no longer just Captain Marcus Chen of the UES Horizon. He was Prince Consort of an empire that spanned galaxies, husband to an alien princess who could have chosen to enslave his entire species, and potentially the father of hybrid children who would shape the future of human-Velkaran relations. Princess, he said finally, I think we might actually be able to make this work. Her skin shifted to a warm amber color that he instinctively understood meant satisfaction. Please, Marcus, in private call me Zara. We are partners now in this strange alliance. Partners, Marcus repeated, testing the word. It sounded better than prisoners, which was how he had been thinking of their situation. Come, Zara said, gesturing toward the palace interior. Tomorrow begins your transformation from human starship captain to imperial prince. Tonight we should rest. The challenges ahead will require all our combined strength. As they walked back into the palace together, Marcus caught a glimpse of their reflection in a crystalline wall. The human and the alien, standing side by side, their shadows merging into something new. Perhaps this impossible marriage might become something more than political necessity. Perhaps it might become the foundation for a new kind of future for both their species. Time would tell. 3 months into his marriage, Prince Consort Marcus Chen stood in the Imperial War Room facing the greatest test of his new position. The holographic display before him showed a star system under siege, its planets burning under the assault of an enemy fleet. The Devourers, as they were known, had returned after a 50-year absence to resume their campaign of galactic destruction. The Kepler colonies will fall within 2 standard days, announced General Lixmore, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming under the war room's harsh lighting. We can evacuate perhaps 10% of the population before the system is lost. Emperor Velkaran himself presided over the emergency session, his ancient form radiating the authority of millennia. What forces do we have available for immediate deployment? The 7th Fleet is 3 days out, replied Admiral Zintara. The Fourth Fleet is engaged with Devourer scouts in the Proxima sector. We lack sufficient rapid response capability. Marcus studied the tactical display, his enhanced human brain processing the information with speed that still surprised him. The genetic modifications Zara had arranged for him had not only allowed him to survive in alien environments, but had also boosted his cognitive abilities far beyond normal human parameters. "What about irregular tactics?" he asked, causing several heads to turn in his direction. As the newest member of the War Council, his opinions were still viewed with suspicion by many of the assembled generals. "Explain," the Emperor commanded. Marcus stepped closer to the display, manipulating the holographic interface with practiced ease. The Devourers operate on predictable patterns. They establish orbital supremacy, then systematically eliminate ground resistance, but they're vulnerable during their planetary assault phase. "You suggest we sacrifice the ground forces to achieve a tactical advantage." General Vixmore's tone suggested he found the idea distasteful. "No," Marcus replied, pulling up additional data streams. "I suggest we use the ground forces as bait while hidden ships positioned in the outer asteroid belt strike their command vessels when they're focused on the planetary bombardment." The room fell silent as the assembled military leaders considered this strategy. Admiral Zintara was the first to speak. "Human tactical thinking," she mused. "Sacrifice apparent strength to exploit enemy overconfidence. It might work." "It will work," Princess Zara interjected, entering the war room with her characteristic purposeful stride. "Marcus's strategic assessments have proven accurate in 17 previous scenarios." The Emperor studied Marcus with interest. "Explain the positioning requirements for this asteroid belt ambush." Marcus expanded the display, showing ship positions and attack vectors. "We use stealth frigates equipped with quantum torpedoes. The asteroid field will mask their energy signatures until the moment of attack. The Devourers won't realize they're under assault until their command structure is already compromised." "And if the ambush fails?" General Vixmore asked pointedly. "Then we've lost nothing more than we would have through conventional tactics," Marcus replied. "But if it succeeds, we save 30 billion lives and deal a significant blow to Devourer expansion." Emperor Velkarun raised a clawed hand, silencing the room. "Prince Consort Chen, you will personally oversee the implementation of this strategy. Admiral Zintara, provide him with whatever resources he requires." As the meeting dispersed, Marcus felt the weight of 30 billion lives settling on his shoulders. This was his first major military operation as Prince Consort, and failure would not only doom the Kepler colonies, but would also undermine his position within the imperial hierarchy. Zara approached him as the war room cleared. "You realize what the Emperor has done," she said quietly. "He's given me enough rope to hang myself with," Marcus replied, "or to prove that human strategic thinking can contribute meaningfully to imperial military doctrine. Success here will establish your authority. Failure will confirm the suspicions of those who believe aliens have no place in Velkarun leadership." Marcus nodded grimly. "No pressure." "The pressure is enormous," Zara agreed with her characteristic directness. "But I have confidence in your abilities. Human military history demonstrates remarkable innovation under desperate circumstances." Over the next 18 hours, Marcus worked with Admiral Zintara to assemble the strike force. The stealth frigates were repositioned using micro-jumps that would avoid detection by Devourer sensor arrays. Ground forces on the threatened planets were quietly reorganized to present the appearance of conventional defensive preparations, while actually creating optimal conditions for the orbital ambush. Dr. Kumar, now fully integrated into the Imperial Research Division, provided crucial intelligence about Devourer behavioral patterns. Her analysis of historical encounters revealed that the enemy fleet commanders consistently positioned themselves in specific formations during planetary assault operations. "They're creatures of habit," she explained during the final briefing. "Their command vessels always maintain position directly above major population centers to coordinate the bombardment. It's their greatest tactical strength and their most exploitable weakness." As the Devourer fleet arrived in the Kepler system, Marcus watched from the bridge of the Imperial command ship, positioned safely outside the combat zone. The enemy ships were massive organic constructs that seemed to pulse with malevolent life. Their approach followed the predicted pattern exactly. Devourer fleet establishing orbital positions, reported the tactical officer. Beginning preliminary bombardment of Kepler Prime's major cities. Marcus opened a communication channel to the hidden frigate commanders. All units, maintain stealth protocol, wait for my mark. The next hour was agony. Marcus watched as the Devourers systematically destroyed defensive installations and began their assault on civilian population centers. Every fiber of his being screamed to order the attack immediately, but the tactical situation wasn't optimal yet. Devourer command ships moving into final bombardment positions, the tactical officer announced. Marcus studied the display, watching as the enemy fleet arranged itself in the exact formation Dr. Kumar had predicted. The command vessels hung directly over the largest cities, their weapons charging for the devastating assault that would kill millions. Now, Marcus commanded, all units execute Operation Asteroid Storm. The space around the Devourer fleet suddenly erupted with weapons fire as 16 stealth frigates emerged from the asteroid field. Quantum torpedoes struck command vessels with surgical precision, while the enemy fleet was caught completely off guard. 3 Devourer command ships were destroyed in the first volley. The remaining enemy vessels attempted to respond, but their formation had been optimized for planetary bombardment, not fleet combat. They were sitting targets for the highly maneuverable Velkarun frigates. Direct hit on the flagship, reported Admiral Zintara from her position with the strike force. Enemy command structure is collapsing. The battle turned into a rout. Without their command ships, the Devourer fleet lost coordination. Their biological vessels began retreating in disorder, many suffering critical damage from continued frigate attacks. Enemy fleet in full retreat, announced the tactical officer. Kepler system is secure. Cheers erupted across the command bridge as news of the victory spread throughout the fleet. Marcus felt a profound sense of relief, but his celebration was interrupted by an urgent communication from the surface of Kepler Prime. Prince Consort, the voice belonged to Colonel Vexter, commanding the ground forces. We have a situation. The Devourers deployed biological weapons before their retreat. We're seeing massive civilian casualties from some kind of engineered plague. Marcus's moment of triumph evaporated. Can you contain the outbreak? Negative. This is unlike anything in our medical databases. We estimate complete planetary population loss within 48 hours unless we find a treatment. Marcus looked at Zara, seeing his own concern reflected in her violet eyes. Dr. Kumar, he called over the comm system, we need you down there now. Bring everything we have on biological warfare countermeasures. Already on my way, Kumar replied. But Marcus, if this is a bioengineered plague, we might need to consider more extreme measures. The next 24 hours were a nightmare of medical crisis management. Dr. Kumar and her team worked frantically to analyze the alien pathogen while casualties mounted exponentially. The plague showed characteristics of both viral and bacterial infection, while demonstrating an intelligence that suggested artificial modification. It's adaptive, Kumar reported during an emergency medical briefing. Every treatment we try, it evolves resistance within hours. This isn't just biological warfare, it's biological terrorism. Marcus stared at the mounting casualty reports. 20 billion people were dying, and traditional medicine was proving useless. What about non-traditional approaches? What do you mean? Kumar asked. The Velkarun have conquered thousands of species. Surely some of them have encountered similar bioweapons. Zara's expression brightened. The Kethmori. They were a warrior species that specialized in biological warfare before their integration into the Empire. Their medical archives might contain relevant countermeasures. How long to access those archives? Marcus asked. 6 hours to transmit the data from the core worlds, Admiral Zintara replied. We don't have 6 hours, Kumar interjected. At current infection rates, we have maybe 2 hours before the situation becomes irreversible. Marcus felt the weight of impossible decisions. Military victory had turned to potential humanitarian catastrophe, and conventional solutions weren't working. He needed to think like a human, not like a Velkarun prince. What about the plague itself? He asked suddenly. It's artificially intelligent, right? Can we communicate with it? Kumar stared at him. Marcus, that's insane. Is it? The Devourers are biological entities. Their weapons might be extensions of their own consciousness. If we can establish communication, maybe we can negotiate. Negotiate with a plague. Admiral Zintara's tone suggested she thought the stress had affected his sanity. We negotiate with hostile alien species all the time, Marcus pointed out. How is this different? Dr. Kumar began pulling up data streams with renewed energy. Actually, that's not entirely crazy. The pathogen shows organized behavior patterns that suggest some form of collective intelligence. Can you establish communication protocols? Zara asked. Maybe, if I modify the universal translator matrices to account for biological rather than linguistic communication patterns. Kumar's fingers flew over her console. This is completely theoretical, but it might work. 20 minutes later, Marcus found himself in an isolation chamber on Kepler Prime, surrounded by medical equipment and wearing a full environmental suit. In front of him, a sample of the alien plague writhed in a containment field, its microscopic components somehow generating patterns of light that the modified translators interpreted as speech. Why do you kill? Marcus asked the pathogen. The response came as colors shifting across the containment field, translated into words by the experimental communication system. Purpose, devourer gift, cleanse weakness. The people here are not weak, Marcus replied. They fought bravely against your creators. All weak, all food, devourers consume, we prepare. Marcus felt revulsion at the casual dismissal of billions of lives, but he also sensed an opportunity. What if I could show you strength? Would you recognize it? The plague entity seemed to consider this. Strength show. Marcus removed his helmet, exposing himself directly to the pathogen. Around him, alarms began screaming as medical sensors detected his exposure to the deadly organism. Marcus, what are you doing? Dr. Kumar's voice crackled through the comm system. Showing strength, he replied calmly. The plague entity surrounded him, its microscopic components invading his respiratory system and bloodstream. Marcus felt the alien organism probing his biology, testing his defenses, seeking weaknesses to exploit. But his enhanced human immune system, boosted by Velkarun genetic modifications, proved unexpectedly resilient. The plague found itself unable to establish infection protocols against his hybrid physiology. Strong, the entity admitted, its communication patterns shifting to what Marcus interpreted as surprise. Hybrid strong, devourers did not predict. My people are also strong, Marcus pressed. They adapt, they overcome, they deserve respect, not destruction. Respect, new concept. Devourers know only hunger. I can teach you about respect, Marcus offered, about cooperation instead of consumption. The plague entity went silent for several long minutes while Marcus remained exposed to its probes. Finally, it responded. Hybrid offers new path. Plague accepts teaching, will withdraw from weak ones. Throughout the Kepler system, medical sensors began registering dramatic changes. The alien pathogen was not only ceasing its assault on the population, but was actively repairing the cellular damage it had previously caused. Marcus, Dr. Kumar's voice was filled with wonder, the plague is healing its victims. Infection rates are dropping to 0. Marcus put his helmet back on, feeling suddenly exhausted. Sometimes the best weapon is the one you choose not to use. Later, as he stood with Zara in the observation lounge of their transport back to Karun Prime, Marcus reflected on the events of the past few days. You realize what you accomplished, Zara said. Not just the military victory, but the medical breakthrough. You've shown that human diplomatic approaches can succeed where traditional Velkarun methods fail. We saved 30 billion lives through a combination of human tactics and Velkarun resources, Marcus corrected. It wasn't one or the other, it was both working together. Which proves the wisdom of our alliance, Zara agreed. The Emperor has requested a full briefing on your communication protocols with biological entities. This could revolutionize how the Empire deals with bioweapon attacks. Marcus nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Zara, I've been thinking about our probationary period, about what success means for us personally. And what have you concluded? That maybe we've been approaching this backwards. We've been trying to make our marriage work for political reasons. But what if we focused on making our partnership work for personal reasons? Zara's skin shifted through several color changes before settling on a shade Marcus had learned to associate with deep consideration. You're suggesting we prioritize our relationship over our political obligations. I'm suggesting they don't have to be separate things, Marcus replied. The stronger we are as partners, the more effective we'll be as political leaders. An interesting hypothesis, Zara mused. How would you propose to test it? Marcus smiled, feeling more confident about his alien marriage than he had since the ceremony. By treating each other as equals rather than political assets, by building trust through shared experiences rather than strategic necessity. And our offspring, the hybrid children the sacred algorithms demand. They should be the product of genuine partnership, not algorithmic calculation, Marcus said. Children raised by parents who respect and understand each other will be far more effective as ambassadors between our species. Zara was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars pass by outside the transport's viewports. Your approach is highly irregular by Velkarun standards. Good thing I'm only half Velkarun by marriage, Marcus replied. For the second time since he had known her, Princess Zarathis laughed. Indeed, very well, husband. Let us embark on this experiment in personal diplomacy. Perhaps we will discover that the most effective alliances are built not on calculation, but on genuine mutual respect. As their transport jumped to hyperspace, carrying them back toward Karun Prime and their uncertain future, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since this entire adventure began. Hope. Not just for humanity's place in the galaxy, but for the possibility that an impossible alien marriage might become something worth preserving for its own sake. The stars stretched into infinity around them, and Marcus Chen, prince consort of the Velkarun Empire, looked forward to discovering what other impossibilities might become reality when two very different species chose partnership over domination. Their story was just beginning,